The quiet grandeur of Beijing once again became the stage for high-stakes diplomacy as Russian President Vladimir Putin met with Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico. Their encounter, held against the backdrop of a shifting global order, offered not only ceremonial greetings but also firm declarations about the future of European security and the war in Ukraine. The Russian leader, seated across from Fico, delivered one of his clearest and most uncompromising statements regarding Moscow's red lines. In carefully measured words, Putin insisted that any resolution to the war in Ukraine must respect Russia's core security concerns. His remarks carried the weight of both historical reference and geopolitical defiance. Putin leaned into the central theme of his speech: security. His words echoed through the meeting room, crafted to resonate far beyond Beijing. He declared firmly, "Naturally, it is Ukraine's decision how to ensure its own security. However, as was written in the fundamental documents, including in the area of security on the European continent, this cannot be ensured at the expense of the security of other countries, in particular at the expense of the Russian Federation." The statement, deliberate in tone and precise in delivery, underlined Russia's long-standing position that Ukraine's partnerships, particularly with Western institutions such as NATO, cannot come at Moscow's cost. For Putin, the war in Ukraine is not merely a regional conflict, but a broader struggle over the architecture of European security. The presence of Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico at Putin's side was no minor detail. Slovakia, a member of both the European Union and NATO, has carved out a reputation under Fico for adopting an independent stance on several international issues, including the war in Ukraine. For Moscow, Bratislava's willingness to engage directly with Russia offers an opening to challenge what Putin often describes as the monolithic policies of the West. During their talks, Putin expressed appreciation for Slovakia's posture, describing it as pragmatic and free from external pressures. It was a subtle but pointed reminder of the divisions within Europe over how to handle the ongoing war. In this sense, the meeting in Beijing was not just about bilateral ties between Moscow and Bratislava. It symbolized a deeper attempt by Russia to highlight cracks in the Western consensus, using allies and sympathetic leaders to show that its views are not entirely isolated. The location of the talks, Beijing, added yet another layer of symbolism. China has positioned itself as a global mediator, promoting its own peace framework for Ukraine while simultaneously deepening its partnership with Russia. For Putin, meeting a European leader in Beijing, rather than Moscow or Bratislava, sent a clear message. The global balance of power is shifting eastward. China's silent role in hosting such meetings illustrates its growing influence in shaping the discourse around Ukraine. While Beijing has avoided explicitly endorsing Moscow's war aims, it has refrained from condemning Russia and continues to expand economic and military ties with the Kremlin. Putin's remarks reflected the core of Russia's grievances since the Cold War's end. Moscow has long argued that NATO's eastward expansion undermines its security. The war in Ukraine, in the Kremlin's narrative, is the culmination of years of Western disregard for those concerns. By reiterating the point in Beijing, Putin sought to frame the issue not as a Russian demand, but as a principle enshrined in fundamental documents governing European security. His words attempted to anchor Russia's position in legality and legitimacy, suggesting that Moscow is not seeking exceptional treatment but respect for already existing agreements. For observers, however, the timing and setting underscored Russia's determination to push back against international pressure. Despite Western sanctions and continued military aid to Kyiv, Putin's tone suggested that Russia believes time is on its side, that divisions within Europe and shifting global dynamics will eventually force a compromise closer to Moscow's terms. While Putin's words dominated headlines, Robert Fico's presence carried its own weight. Slovakia, under his leadership, has often emphasized national interests over bloc solidarity, particularly when it comes to military support for Ukraine. For Fico, engaging directly with Putin allows him to project independence both at home and abroad. Although Fico did not issue a dramatic statement comparable to Putin's, the optics of the meeting mattered. A European leader sitting alongside Putin in Beijing at a time when many Western capitals isolate Moscow was itself a powerful symbol. The meeting in Beijing was not an isolated event, but part of a broader tapestry. Russia is increasingly seeking to show that it is not alone, that despite Western efforts to cut it off, it retains allies, sympathizers, and platforms for diplomacy. For Putin, the narrative is clear. Russia is a great power whose security cannot be disregarded, and any attempt to isolate it will fail. His statement, "This cannot be ensured at the expense of the security of other countries, in particular at the expense of the Russian Federation," was as much a warning as a condition for negotiation. Beijing offered the perfect stage, a global capital aligned with Russia in challenging Western dominance, yet officially committed to peace and diplomacy. As the cameras recorded the handshake between Putin and Fico, the message was unmistakable. Russia remains firm on its stance. No peace deal in Ukraine can come at its expense. The choice of China as the setting emphasized Moscow's confidence in its alliances beyond Europe and its refusal to bow to Western isolation. In the end, the words spoken in Beijing were not just about Ukraine. They were about the future of European security, the shifting global order, and Russia's determination to be at the center of both.